This is Operation Desert Storm, where America and a coalition of allies dismantled the Iraqi army in just 100 hours of blistering combat and set the standard for modern warfare. We'll dissect the battle and the strategy behind it in just a moment. But first, let's look at how it came about. This is the Middle East. Iraq is here, Saudi Arabia is here, and sandwiched between the two is the small but oil-rich nation of Kuwait. It is August 1st, 1990, and though the rest of the world is in denial about it, Saddam Hussein is about to invade his smaller southern neighbor. The reason is simple. He's broke. Beginning in 1980 and ending in 1988, Saddam fought a long, bloody, expensive, and ultimately pointless war with neighboring Iran. Though Iraq won, it was a Pyrrhic victory that cost Saddam up to 500,000 casualties and saw his debts spiral to $86 billion. That created a huge problem for him because he relies on high public spending to stay in power. Having tried and failed to raise cash by getting OPEC, the Middle Eastern oil giant, to hike oil prices, he has concluded that seizing more oil from his southern neighbor is his only option. So on August the 2nd, he marches his troops across the border and into Kuwait. They meet little resistance, and within 48 hours, the emir has fled and the entire country is under Saddam's control, doubling his oil reserve in one fell swoop. But while the invasion is a tactical success, it is a strategic disaster and unites more or less the entire world against him. America, which is in the process of assuming its role as global leader, vows to build a coalition and lead the response. The Saudis, who are worried that Saddam will come for their oil fields next, marshals almost all of their Arab neighbors to denounce him. Even the Soviet Union, a long-standing ally of Baghdad, signs a UN resolution condemning the attack. On August the 6th, President Bush Sr. gives the order for US forces to deploy in Saudi Arabia on a mission dubbed Operation Desert Shield. The first to arrive are aircraft, 48 F-15 fighters, which are on station within 36 hours, ready to blast any Iraqi tanks that try to advance further. Then come infantry and armor, tons and tons of it, flowing day and night into the giant Saudi port of Dammam, located here. Between August and January the following year, no fewer than 500,000 troops and 3.7 million tons of arms and armor make their way into Saudi Arabia. That's equivalent to moving the entire population of Denver and all of their possessions a third of the way around the world in just 160 days. As promised, America brings with it a coalition of allies. Britain sends its 1st Armored Division, while the French send their 6th Light Division. Arab and Islamic nations send large numbers of troops as well. Egypt, Syria, and Saudi Arabia send the most, but more come from the likes of Morocco, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Even the Afghan Mujahideen send 300 men to act as military police. Desert Shield is a success, and Saddam's forces advance no further, but they refuse to back down without a fight either. Reinforcements are rushed to the border, where they begin digging defenses. They build a 175-mile-long barricade of wire fences, minefields, and oil-filled flame ditches that can be ignited as troops advance into them, which is dubbed the Saddam Line. If the Iraqis are going to leave Kuwait, then America and its allies are going to have to kick them out, which is exactly what they plan to do. Operation Desert Shield is about to become Operation Desert Storm. This is the battle that defined modern warfare, where technology and tactics combined to produce one of the most comprehensive victories in military history, where the Americans shook off the shame of Vietnam and established themselves as the world's most powerful military and sole superpower. This is Operation Desert Storm, and this is Battleboard. This is the border between Iraq, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. Kuwait City is here, Basra is here, and here is the Saddam Line. Manning the line at this point are 11 divisions from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th Corps of the Iraqi regular army. These are infantry, armed with light weapons like AK rifles and mortars, backed by roughly 3,000 artillery guns. Behind them are roughly 15 more divisions, made up of a mixture of infantry and armor, wielding Type 69 tanks, a Chinese copy of the Soviet T-54. They're concentrated at the southern end of the line, near Kuwait City, because Saddam, not unreasonably, believes this is where the main attack will come. Up here, guarding the northern end of the line, are just 4 lightly armoured infantry divisions. While numbers are sketchy, this represents about 2/3 of the men Saddam has in theatre, and could number up to 400,000 troops. In reserve are the elite Republican Guard. These theatre troops are some of the most battle-hardened in the world and helped swing the Iran-Iraq war in Saddam's favour. They are equipped with much more modern tanks, Soviet T-72s, along with BMP and BTR fighting vehicles, and make up about 1/3 of Saddam's forces, up to 200,000 men. A raid against them is a huge coalition force. Down here, almost exactly south of Kuwait City, are the US Marines, 2 divisions backed by an armoured division, wielding the new M1 Abrams tank. To either side of them are the Arab Islamic Forces, a division of Saudis and smaller units from 9 other nations to the southeast, and large numbers of Egyptians and Syrians backed by Saudis to the northwest. These are mostly light infantry armed with rifles, machine guns, and armoured transports. These forces will be responsible for attacking and breaching the Saddam line, and in doing so are hoping to convince the Iraqis they are the main attack. But in reality, they're just a diversion, because lurking way out here in the desert is the real iron fist that will smash the Iraqi army. To the left of the Arabs is the bulk of the coalition's armour. 4 US divisions, also equipped with Bradleys and Abrams, and the British 1st Armoured, equipped with Challenger tanks. Way out in the west are 2 more US infantry divisions, the French light infantry, and 2 US paratrooper divisions, the 82nd and 101st. They're equipped with Black Hawk helicopters to carry them into battle at terrifying speed. Their job will either be to break through the western end of the Saddam line or bypass it completely and push as far and as fast into Iraq as they can. They will then swing east, smashing into the exposed flank of the Republican Guard, catching them off guard and wiping them out. This army numbers somewhere north of 500,000 men, 450,000 Americans, more than 100,000 from the Middle East, and tens of thousands of British and French. They are backed by supremely capable air forces. F-15 fighters to shoot down anything Saddam can put into the air, B-52 Stratofortresses to flatten ground targets with 70,000 pounds of bombs each, and brand new F-117 Nighthawks, the first combat jet with stealth technology. On January 16th, it is these air forces that begin the attack. We're back in the wider Middle East. Saudi Arabia is here, Iraq is here, and the capital Baghdad is here. And here are the forces that Saddam already has on the Kuwaiti-Iraqi border. Leading the air assault are F-117s, which are tasked with flying deep into Iraq and hitting Baghdad. Within minutes of the operation starting, and almost totally unseen by Iraqi radar, they deal Iraq's headquarters a blow from which it will never recover. Using laser-guided precision bombs, they hit the presidential palace, Ba'ath Party headquarters, and all of Baghdad's main power stations. They also strike military command posts, including the National Air Defense Center, which is flattened by a bomb slotted directly down a ventilation shaft. This totally blinds the Iraqi air defense network, which allows the rest of the coalition air force to roam at will, taking off from Saudi airfields and from aircraft carriers in the Gulf. They blow up anti-air missiles and guns, Saddam's feared Scud missile launchers, and suspected chemical weapons dumps. Within an hour, this behemoth, nicknamed the Gorilla, has pummeled the Iraqi air force and air defenses into oblivion. The coalition is now totally unopposed in the air, known as air supremacy, and they use this to carry out a 6-week-long bombardment of pretty much whatever they like. Targets include bridges and highways from Iraq into Kuwait, which could have been used to bring in reinforcements, along with ammo dumps and command posts. Iraqi troops in Kuwait are pounded at least once per hour, every hour, for 40 days straight. In total, the coalition flies more than 116,000 sorties and drops almost 90,000 tons of bombs, which shatter the morale of Iraqi units who have no option but to sit there and take it. Only once that devastating bombardment has ended does the ground war begin. We're back on the Iraq-Kuwait-Saudi Arabia border. Here's the opposing armies, and here is the Saddam line. On February 24th, the diversionary attack begins. At 4 a.m., these two Marine divisions and their armoured accompaniment launch a frontal attack on the line. They find the Iraqis' feared defences are nowhere near as impenetrable as they claim. Armoured bulldozers demolish berms, stacks of earth designed to slow advancing armies, and push the debris into trenches where some unfortunate Iraqi soldiers are buried alive. Sappers, crawling forward with sticks, locate and clear minefields, while others cut their way through barbed wire. Tanks and troops pour through these gaps as Iraqi infantry flee before them. In just 3 hours, they are cleaned through the line and advancing on Kuwait. The Arab Islamic forces advance next and also make good progress. Soon, they report Iraqis surrendering to them. With Saddam's troops distracted, the western end of the line also swings into action. French light infantry and the American 82nd Airborne move into the desert first, making use of brand new GPS systems to guide them. At 7 a.m., hundreds of Black Hawks, carrying the entire 101st Airborne, get into the sky, flying almost 100 miles into Iraq to establish a forward operating base here, near a town called Al Salman. This base will serve as a resupply point for the western end of the line, whilst also preventing Iraqis from bringing any reinforcements from this direction. At 3 p.m, the 25th Infantry and 3rd Armoured Cavalry also charge forward in a blinding sandstorm, sweeping aside these Iraqi divisions and eventually overtaking the 101st. While the original plan called for all this armour to enter battle on the second day, progress has been so swift that, also at 3 p.m, they're ordered into the fight as well. By the end of the day, British and American armour are also through the Saddam line and advancing into the desert. Day 2 brings more of the same. The 101st leads its end of the line all the way to the Euphrates River, taking thousands of prisoners along the way. Meanwhile, the Marines and their Arab Islamic allies continue their battle towards Kuwait City, pinning all of these troops in place. And in the centre, the armoured fist of American and British tanks, also guided by GPS, reaches the logistics hub of Al-Basaya and begins their pivot to the east. Day 3 sees this armoured fist smash into the unprotected cheek of the Iraqi Armoured Reserve and Republican Guard, which are completely unaware it is coming and facing the wrong way. One of the first and most decisive engagements takes place here, a fight that becomes known as the Battle of 73 Easting. This is 73 Easting, a barren stretch of desert close to the Iraq-Kuwait border. There's a small village down here and a series of small ridgelines here, but otherwise this landscape is featureless, divided up on American GPS maps by longitudinal lines or eastings. The 73rd of those lines runs down here. A full battalion of the Iraqi Tawakkalno Division of the Republican Guard is positioned like so. They have infantry scouts here and 2 defensive lines of tanks and BMP fighting vehicles like so. Dozens more tanks, fighting vehicles, infantry and anti-aircraft guns are positioned here. And up here is a circle of 17 T-72 tanks waiting in reserve. Eagle Troop of the US 2nd Cavalry are advancing like so. 13 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, leading 9 Abrams' main battle tanks. They're moving through a sandstorm that has reduced visibility to just a few hundred meters, so the two sides cannot yet see each other. It is the Bradleys which spot the enemy first, making short work of these tanks and fighting vehicles with their anti-tank missiles and 25mm chain guns. The Abrams, meanwhile, flatten the village with their depleted uranium sabot rounds. From this opening exchange until the end of the battle, just 23 minutes will elapse. The Bradleys, which are designed to be scouts, now drop back behind the tanks, which take the lead. H.R. McMaster, in the lead Abrams, takes aim using a laser rangefinder and manages to get 2 shots away, destroying 2 tanks before he's even within Iraqi range. When the Iraqis do open up, their shots miss. Their tanks are reliant on visual scopes only, unlike the lasers and thermal vision in the American tanks. This line of tanks is quickly destroyed, and at this point, McMaster and the rest of Eagle Troop crest a hill and discover the rest of the battalion below them. They've been given orders not to decisively engage, but sitting on an exposed ridgeline, there is little choice but to charge forward, all guns blazing. The sabot rounds in the Abrams prove devastating to the Soviet tanks, sometimes punching clean through one with enough force to take out the tank or vehicle behind it as well. The anti-tank missiles on the Bradleys are no slouch either, destroying both armor and Iraqi defensive positions with ease, while the chain guns take care of the infantry. Led by the Abrams, Eagle Troop sweep through the body of the battalion, destroying everything in their path. Then they turn round and blast the reserve tanks to bits, just for good measure. When they reach 73 Easting, McMaster gets on the radio and asks for a casualty report. To his surprise, Eagle Troop has managed to wipe out an entire battalion of Republican Guard, dozens of tanks, armored vehicles and trucks, along with hundreds of troops, without taking a single loss in return. We're back on the Iraqi-Kuwaiti-Saudi border. Here's the opposing armies, and here's where the battle we just witnessed took place. At this moment, scenes like those at 73 Easting are playing out all along this line. Supposedly elite units, caught completely by surprise, are being slaughtered by an enemy that is far better equipped and prepared than they are. American and British armor is making short work of their Soviet counterparts, and Saddam's supposedly elite Republican Guard is crumbling. By the end of February 26th, 24 Iraqi divisions have been wiped off the map. American spy planes circling above the battlefield report a mass exodus is now underway. Whatever armed forces Saddam has left are hightailing it for the border, setting light to oil fields as they go. Sensing total victory is at hand, coalition forces are given the order to pursue and destroy them. Overnight, between February 26th and 27th, coalition warplanes catch a huge column of fleeing Iraqis clogging up Highway 80, which connects Kuwait City to Iraq. Tanks and other military vehicles are clearly present, so the order is given to begin bombing and strafing the column. By the time the sun comes up the following day, up to 2,000 vehicles lie wrecked on the road, images that would be beamed around the world and dubbed the Highway of Death. The actual death toll is disputed. Some estimates are in the low hundreds, while others range into the thousands. Whatever the truth, these images prove hugely controversial because of what are clearly civilian vehicles among the wreckage. Allegations of war crimes begin to fly, and under pressure, President Bush calls a halt to combat operations on February 28th. In just 100 hours of combat, Saddam has been dealt a blow from which he will never fully recover. An estimated 70% of his total combat power lies wrecked in the desert. Anywhere between 30,000 and 100,000 of his men are dead, thousands more as prisoners. He has lost all of the oil he intended to seize and is an international pariah. In return, coalition forces have suffered just 345 casualties and 1,000 wounded, dozens of which are due to friendly fire. However, the premature end to hostilities means between 70,000 and 80,000 of Saddam's troops escape. Crucially, These include thousands of Republican Guard who later proved key to repressing dissent and keeping him in power. At least, that is, until the Iraq invasion of 2003. But that's a story for another time. Now, let's clear the board and look at the tactics and strategy that led to such a resounding victory. The basic plan for Desert Storm is one that would have been familiar to generals down the ages: a flank attack. Flanking attacks work because a defending general only has so many troops at their disposal to block an adversary from getting to an objective. They must try to guess an attacker's most likely route to an objective and then place all their men across that route, all facing the same way to stop them. That principle is the same, whether you're commanding Greek hoplites with spears and shields thousands of years ago, or T-72 main battle tanks such as the ones the Iraqis had. But that creates weak points on the flanks. If the attacker can maneuver around the defensive line and come in from the side, then the defenders will find themselves out of position and facing the wrong way and unable to fight. This is harder than it sounds and requires just the right mix of skill and cunning on the attacker's part to pull off. But if done correctly, it is devastating and can cause even elite troops to break and run. As we've seen, this is exactly what happened during Desert Storm. But if there was nothing particularly new in the coalition battle plan, what makes the victory such a big deal? The exciting thing was not necessarily what the Americans did, but the way they did it and the message that sent. What made this flanking maneuver possible was a dizzying array of new technology. It was technology that allowed US fighter planes to make it all the way to Baghdad undetected. Yet more technology, precision-guided bombs, then allowed them to flatten their targets when they got there, blinding Iraqi commanders to what was about to happen. It was GPS technology that guided vast columns of tanks and armored vehicles across the barren desert, which the Iraqis viewed as impenetrable. And it was laser rangefinders and thermal sights on the Western tanks that allowed them to destroy the enemy so effectively. Desert Storm may have been a masterclass in age-old tactics, but it was also a terrifying example of the power of modern technology on the battlefield. And what's more, the technology the Americans demolished in the process was given to the Iraqis by their biggest geopolitical rival, the Soviets. Desert Storm not only defined how modern wars would be fought and the technology that would be used to fight them, but it firmly established America as the world's most powerful military and sole superpower, having comprehensively leapfrogged their old Cold War nemesis. And that's why Desert Storm is viewed as one of the defining moments of American military history. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content and want to see more in your feed, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, or click the buttons on screen to watch other episodes.